Good evening, and everybody. Welcome to this week's race chat. My name is Clint Geoffrey, along with Adam Ross as well. We're glad you're here with us on a holiday Tuesday. Short week. It kind of feels like a Monday, but we're here anyways. How you doing, Adam?
I'm miserable, but otherwise good.
Okay, so that could be one of a few different things. As one of your buddies, I'll take a guess. You're running like crap at Vegas tonight in the race coming up right after the program here tonight.
I'm running so bad. So bad.
Okay.
And it's
Hey,
so annoying. And I have to give up my second hour of practice to come and talk to you.
Well, you knew we had the show every week when you agreed to have your race every week. So that's where we're at. But we have a great guest with us. Dean's been through a lot of stuff over the years, starting as a super fan. We'll get to him in just a moment. Dean Reynolds from Super Dirt Car Series says they just wrapped up Oktoberfast. We'll talk to him about the successes and some of the trials that they had in their first kind of hell week with the modifieds traveling across New York in October. Some of the other things we're going to talk about today, just in case you're hanging with us. Smiles for Dolak. We'll talk about our buddy Chris Dolak. We're going to talk about the Canadian Sim Racing Series that gets underway tonight at 9 p.m. and that'll be hosted by Brad and Steve Ovens from 3-9 Streaming right here on GeForce, and featuring a lot of your favorite racers getting it done on the blacktop. We're also going to be talking about the Short Track Super Series coming to Port Royal this weekend. We've got our Burger Barn video of the week, and then we're going to talk a bit about some rules discussions that have been going on Facebook with the super stocks on the pavement and the modifieds on the dirt. And then we'll talk about a couple other cool things that have been going on, and you're welcome to join in anytime and help us out, help us propel the program forward. Without any further ado, we'll ask Spencer to bring in our guest, Dean Reynolds. And Dean is, been with us a few times over the past couple of years, and his role as the Dirt Car Northeast Director. Is that right, Dean? Or the Super Dirt Car Series? I think it entails more than the Dirt Series, right?
Yeah, I guess they call me the Director of Dirt Car Northeast or Series Director or who knows. But yeah, it's one of two things. We're more than the Super Dirt Car Series. We're more of the Northeastern Canada Dirt Car. I kind of like to say that Director of Dirt Car Northeast.
Yeah. Yeah, Pro Stock, Sportsman, 358 Modified. All falls under your enormous umbrella.
And then we'll throw in a little sprint cars too, as you know, guys. So I like to keep the best of both worlds going on. And speaking about iRacing, I'm going to be doing an iRacing league this winter, which is going to be run just before your events on Tuesday nights.
Oh, fantastic!
Awesome.
Well, not fantastic. Wait a second. Just before, will they be done by 8:00?
I'm starting at 7, so they'll be done probably an hour and 10 minutes. So,
and then people can tune into. That's right. We did have that chat. We did.
Yep. So, did you forget?
So we brought Dean on to talk about Oktoberfast. Dean, we've been talking on this program about how you guys have had to adapt and change the program a little bit with Oswego not being able to do anything this year. First off, what a crazy year it's been. Could you have ever imagined things would have come down like they have in 2020?
No, and God, I don't want to go through this again, if you don't mind. The big problem with the year was just the unknown. You don't know where you're going to go, what you're going to do, what the state guidelines are going to be, what the CDC guidelines are going to be, and I spent most of the summer just answering calls, not giving them answers, giving them maybes, and that was frustrating. I said it before. I felt like I was letting people down because I didn't have answers. And when we knew Oswego wasn't going to happen, shortly after Labor Day, when he moved the executive order to September 19th, we knew our bed was made. And that's where this came about. And in 5 weeks, we planned it when we pulled it off. And I hope the fans got to enjoy it at their couches on home on Dirt-Vision.
As a fan, Dean, I can say nice job. Nicely done to run these shows off. You had an enormous amount of cars show up from start to finish, from plan to execution. You guys needed the race teams to be as flexible as they could, and all the things that happened, everyone being coordinated and still drawing huge car counts at every event. Hats off to you guys. Congratulations. And I enjoyed the racing. I mean, I tuned in pretty much every night I could and enjoyed the hell out of it listening to Shane Andrews and Dan Kapuzinski all week.
Well, this is like the third interview I've done, and the first aspect I want to thank is the race teams. 366 strong total, and if we got Utica Roman, we would have been close to 380. And but some of these facilities, like at Can-Am, the pits only hold 140 cars. You should have seen where we had cars parked. I mean, we had cars parked all the way out. Roy Bresnahan was the last spot in the parking lot out near 411. I swear he was a quarter mile away from where he needed to enter in the track. And every night we didn't have to wait for one competitor. And I'm just astounded at the cooperation from the race teams. On to pre-entering, they had to pre-enter. So that was over 5,000 pit passes that had to be done before the event. The teams had to go out and find out how many people they could have for each event. And of course, that number varied for them. So it wasn't easy for them. And I just can't thank the teams enough for all the cooperation. And, do I want to do it again? Maybe something during the summer or the spring, but there's a lot of talk about that. But do I want to do this again in October? No, I want to go back to Oswego.
Well, let's face it, Dean, it wasn't really that much different than the satellite shows. You just didn't have that home base anchor spot of Oswego or the Mile to go back to. I mean, the teams are used to that in October, so that's probably a good thing. But you mentioned possibly doing this in the summer. I know during the intermission there I think it might have been Weedsport with Brian Carter when he jumped on and he was talking with Shane and said, there's possibility of doing this in the summer. So what can you tell us behind the door that gives us hints? If you mentioned and he mentioned it, that at least your crew feels it's something that could have a merit for the future.
Well, the team's response is they've always wanted to do something like this. And I actually can remember talking to Mike Parati 4 or 5 years ago because ESS has a speed week. And we do that July 4th weekend in the States here. And he was asking me how it came about and how he did it, because I think there was even talks back then. The issue, though, is we have our sanctioned tracks that run every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So how can we incorporate that either during the week or incorporate part of the weekend? But that means some of the tracks would have to either do show-up points or drop a division or whatever. So it's going to be a lot of coordination to get that done. Or do we do something in the spring, in April, before everyone opens, but you got the weather concerns like we kind of had in October. So, it's going to be talked about, of course. And, right now we're going to kind of get through the World Finals and the World Short Track first. And then I'm going to be down in Charlotte, and I'm going to stay over after that and then start talking about schedules and ideas. And maybe we can put something together. I think maybe not 6 nights, but maybe something like 4 nights, I think would be a perfect stretch.
And it could be a lot of fun. And I don't know if I should even ask this question, but I'm going to because I'm just extremely curious. Financially, where did the money come from to pay $7,500 to win for all of these shows and $10,000 at Weedsport? And like I say, if it's inside baseball, you can come up with some sort of political answer. But you paid quality payouts in these events, and with nobody in the grandstands, was there enough Dirt Vision subscription? Is that how that worked?
Well, we came in knowing it would be a money loser, and Brian Carter's made no bones about it. The base purse was $299,845. I joked around I'd throw in $155 to make it even $300,000. But we know the numbers and we know the pit passes that we were going to sell. And the money came from, our point funds are allocated from sponsorships and outside sources and stuff like that. So the Super Dirt Car Series point fund is $126,000. So that money was allocated, but we didn't have a series. Instead of rolling the money over, Brian Carter says, I'm not going to do that. I want to give it to the race teams. And we're going to come up with something, and that's where he came up with the idea. Brian Carter actually came up with the idea. He called me Monday morning at 9 a.m. and says, I have an idea. We could have gone to PA. We actually had tracks willing to have us hold events in Pennsylvania, but it just didn't feel right. I mean, we have our sanctioned tracks here in the Northeast, in New York and Canada, that had to go through this COVID stuff and struggle, and some didn't even open. Some opened for a few shows, some open for during the weeks, but they had a lot of struggles, and we just didn't think that was right. We didn't move the series out of state. We didn't travel around to get series races. We wanted to support the tracks, and that's where this came about. But yes, the point funds still didn't equal to the money that we were spending, but we're hoping that the car counts were a little bit higher than what we thought, so we're hoping that helped out. I was told Dirt Vision did do well. I don't know the actual numbers. Actually, the financial part, I kind of stay out of it because I'm hired to run races, and I let them worry about the finances. But could it be something where we spent the money now, which we did? Hopefully, maybe 5 years down the road, we'll see repercussions of that where we made money on something that we did this past week.
Speaking of that, Dean, one of our best mentors, Tony Spiteri from Pinty's, always mentions when this all came down, he told me a great line. He said, never let a crisis go to waste. And since that, we did all our live broadcasts up here. And through that process, we learned a few things that myself as a promoter that I'm like, okay, I'm definitely going to carry that even if it's back to normal next year. That's something we learned that would be a great process or a great system tweak. Was there anything you took from this week that you thought, hey, that worked out really well, maybe the online registrations or anything that you figured, hey, that's a better way to do it, and we were forced into that box, but now we learned that we can come out of it with a better plan?
Well, I think you're going to find, and especially the major sports, everyone always thinks we're going to go back to normal next year. I'm cautious on that. Pre-entries or pre-ticket sales has become more and more of a big deal, especially in the bigger sporting events. How many of you got concert tickets and it gets sent to your phone and then you just show a QR code at the gate? I think that's going to trickle down to our local racetracks. I really do. And who knows with the government agencies, they might ask to do cashless. And right now in New York State, if you look at the executive orders, they do ask you to do cashless entry. And that's why we did what we did. So can that get implemented down the road? I've been talking to Jimmy Phelps here at Weedsport Speedway. They kind of want to already do that next year, even before COVID hit. And so I think there's a way to get this process done. And believe it or not, even though we had between 900 and 1,700 people in the pits, the process to actually get people in, once we knocked out the kinks, was actually faster than it was walking up, handing cash, ripping a ticket, signing the waiver, and then having you walk in. All you had to do is have a sheet, check you off, sign the waiver, and you walk in. So we saved a little bit of time there once we knew that. So I think you're going to see that aspect come about in the next couple of years.
Yeah, I don't disagree either, simply because a lot of the partner let's call it vendors or systems we're already using, be it My Race Pass or those types of entities, they're all adapting to add that to, our system as it is, so drivers can just register. And I think that's going to be really cool. I know Doug Leonard, who you share with the Super Dirt Car Series, was also worked with us last weekend, and he's been pushing the new card system that drivers just scan the card when they show up. No sign in, no draw, no nothing. It does everything automatically for you. So we've been looking at that for this season, Dean. But, I think you guys did a great job for what was at hand. Adam, anything else you want to talk to Dean about before Oktoberfast, before we get into a couple of other topics with him?
I want Dean to stick around until we talk about technical issues. But I see that's later in the rundown.
Well, not really. We can get into that. So there are two things that basically pertain to Dean and tech, or dirt car and tech, in our rundown tonight. One would be the Mike Mahaney incident from the weekend, and the other would be the situation in Niagara with the modifieds. And I don't know if you've seen that Facebook discussion as they're trying to figure out ways to keep the modifieds healthy at Merrittville. So let's jump around a bit, but if I can just pause before we go any further. Let's send some good wishes out to Chris Dolak. You worked arm in arm with Chris for a lot of years. We worked arm in arm with Chris for a lot of years. And I would say back in the early years of DTD, when we were running around trying to get in everybody's way at Dirt Week and Chris was running the media, he always made time for us, always made sure we got our interviews, even if you kind of missed the boat. Before he'd let the guy go, hey, did everybody get what they need? Dean, maybe you can speak, and then Adam, a little bit about to Chris's character, maybe about what he's going through. He's suffering some lymphoma cancer, if I understand correctly, in his back. He had some complications on the weekend and was put into ICU. And, the hashtag Smiles for Dolak's been going around. He's a racing dad. He's got his kid Tyler out racing. Dean, what are we missing about Chris Dolak, and what do people need to know about his situation and what type of guy he is?
Well, Chris Dolak and I, and I said that during the week. The racing game that we're all part of is a better place with Chris Dolak in it. There's one of the hardworking guys, a nice guy, hardworking guy. Likes the handle the media type aspect, but he's done everything else. He's run the World of Outlaw late models for a year and had his hand on all sides of the aspect of the racing sport. But he's going through a tough time, and he was getting better there for a while, and actually on the way up to Oktoberfast in the preparation, he was involved every day in helping us with press releases and everything. And it was just good to see him involved and hear his voice on the conference calls and stuff. And then, when we read his wife's post on Facebook, and we got that, I think it was Friday night or Thursday night during Oktoberfest, we all just, I don't know how better to say it, but damn it. And we just don't want to see this happen. And, and I haven't really been in contact because we've been busy up here, and everyone's gotten back to North Carolina yesterday and today. We didn't say much on our calls today, but more or less it was more business oriented. But I'm sure here in the next couple of days we'll get some updates. But I mean, there's just not a nicer guy and one of the hardest working guys. And if anyone can just throw a prayer out or keep the thoughts on, and smiles for Dolak, because Chris, every photo he sent on social media, even without his hair falling out there was always a smile. And that's why Smiles for Dolak came out. We got him on the cars during the week. And today was doubly tough when we just learned the passing of Anthony Parego's dad today. And that just another kick in the gut. And it's been a tough couple days now. And, the Anthony Parego thing with him and how he celebrated his 2 races. And now I don't know if he can celebrate that. And with Tom's passing, it hit hard because Tom was literally the last guy I talked to when I left Albany, Saratoga, to say congratulations. And then he was picking on me a little bit. And I drove out of the track to drive home, and he, was the last person I saw. So it's been a tough weekend, but, let's just keep the family and everybody in their thoughts, and let's, give the Parego some comfort, hopefully in due time. And for Chris, hopefully he get his health back.
Chris Dolak is, I'm almost hesitant to say one of the best people in racing, because I think he is the best person in racing. And I don't say that lightly. I've met a lot of really good people, but I don't know that I've met anyone just a finer gentleman, a better guy. When it needs to be all business, it's all business. When there's time to crack a smile and joke, he'll crack a smile and joke. I've had conversations with him since this came out, although I've been a little bit unplugged this weekend, Clinton. So when you did your intro, I didn't realize he had a bad weekend. I didn't realize he had taken that turn. So I was just checking out the social media to see what I could learn. But, it's not fair. Yeah. But life isn't fair, so we can just hope for the best. And if well wishes and if loving thoughts from thousands of miles away and hundreds of miles away, and from his very own town, have any effect, he's going to be all right. Because there's just so many people with so much respect for Chris Dolak and admiration, and I'm definitely one of them.
Yeah, you always say, why do bad things happen to good people? And Chris Dolak, it's just when this happened, I mean, he thought he popped his back out and hurt his back, and then all of a sudden it became more than that, and then it was serious right there at the beginning. I mean, it was when we first heard it, and it was just a shock, and you almost, why Chris? And there's so many good people around, but you're right, Adam. Chris is just one of those guys that you never see him get upset. He handles every situation with class and gives his whole life to this sport, and he's had for so many years. I've known him for 20 years, and he's one of those guys that, irreplaceable, I guess is the best word, and I don't even know if that's the right word.
Thoughts up to the Dolak family for sure. We'll be keeping Chris in our thoughts as we move into the winter and the postseason here. Dean, let's talk about a couple other things you've got going on. First, let's get your business with dirt car out of the way, and then we'll talk sprint cars for a minute and maybe some modified stuff quickly. What do fans need to know about the upcoming events in Charlotte? And how can they get involved? How can they buy tickets? What's the situation down there? What do they need to know?
Well, the World Short Track and the World Finals are a go. We got we kind of knew last week that was going to be a go, but we officially had a call this morning. The World Short Track has been a go because that's more of a backgate oriented. There's only a couple hundred people to come watch that. We're allowed right now 7% capacity in the stands, according to the North Carolina state government. But in the World Short Track, I don't even know if we get 7%. So. Now, whether we're going to be part of it with the sportsmen and pro stocks, that's a story we're actually trying to solve in the next couple of days because North Carolina is still on what's called the red list. So if New Yorkers go to North Carolina, upon return, they are supposed to quarantine themselves. And CDC guidelines has kind of relaxed that, but our governor has not. And the quarantine guidelines have still been the same since mid-June. So I don't know why they haven't been updated or anything. It's just unfortunate, but you have to go down. If you go down there, you do have to quarantine supposedly upon return. And there might be some race teams that can do that, but the problem is the pit crews because pit crews have there's a lot of people on pit crews that have 9 to 5 jobs where they clock in and clock out, and that's where the issue is going to be tough because when they come back, they can't go to their boss and say, by the way, I got to take 2 weeks off because I went racing in North Carolina. So right now, our magic number is 24 and 15. If we get 24 sportsman cars and 15 pro stocks to give us a yes, and it's got to be a definite, it can't be a maybe, then we're going to go ahead with short track with the sportsman and pro stocks. With the big blocks, we're kind of looking for 30. I think it'll be a little bit easier to get to 30 with the big blocks because we have a lot of teams from Pennsylvania, Jersey, Delaware, and so on that can go, and they don't have to worry about the quarantining, where teams in New York do. So, but as far as the tickets and everything, that we have not talked about yet because I don't know what pre-sale tickets were. And with only 7%, I'm not sure what's going to happen there. Ticketing really hasn't got a plan to go with yet, but you're going to see that in the next couple of days come out in press releases. So a lot's going to happen between now and the weekend.
Is it time
Dean,
yet,
let's
Clinton?
talk about. Yeah, go ahead.
So, when people do things, or when a car has issues that are outside of the rule book, you deal with it and you address it. But I've always felt that how these things are addressed is really what makes the series or the track. And I'm thinking back decades when Joe Plazik got pulled out of his heat race lineup prior to going on the track at Canandaigua because there was a question about his tires. They had issue with the tire on the car. And I can't remember if they checked it and deemed it illegal or if they just had suspicion, but they offered Joe Plazik the chance to go back to his trailer, change tires, and come out for his heat. And he elected to not do that, and I believe that was the end of Joe Plazik's racing for the most part in the States. I'm curious about the procedure with Mike Mahaney after his heat race at the end of a 5-6 day stretch of racing. Why would Tech be on the scene for that, Dean, at that particular moment to handle that situation the way they did?
Well, it's fairly simple. It was alerted to us after the heat by a race team, which I still did not know. I didn't ask. The race team went up to our technical inspectors. We had 2 on hand and said, you might want to look at a shock on Mike Mahaney's car. And we think he's got a bump stop that's not conformed to the rules. And the bump stop says 2¼ inches. It's been a rule in our rule book for actually 2 years. It was implemented in 2019. And so when we got alerted, which happens quite a bit, if you get alerted, you have to act on it. You just can't say you can't poo-poo it and say, oh, I'll get to it or whatever. So then we did go on over there and come to find out that the bump stop was too big. It was 3/4 of an inch too tall. So that was after an event that was run. So Mike's penalty for that event that was run was he was disqualified for his finish and placed last, and then he had to go to the last chance showdown. Of course, he had to change the part. And, it could have been alerted to us after the feature, and then it could have been a whole different situation, where it could have been a bigger penalty. But it got alerted to us after the heat. Now, why it got alerted to us that time, I got suspicions. I got this, I got that, but stuff gets alerted. We had a situation in the Sportsman Series race at Canandaigua where it got alerted to us at the beginning of the night that somebody said, I think a team has illegal exhaust. And the team was named to us, so we went on over there before the event run and we measured the exhaust. And the reason why we did it at that time is because it got alerted to us at that time, and if it was illegal, we can get the team to change it and then race during the race. But it's all depending on when you find out the situation. Now, a lot of the social media says, well, how come you didn't catch it beforehand? We only got so many hours to catch things. And, we do pre-tech, but it's more for safety than anything else. The fire bottles, the seat belts, the helmets, and stuff like that. We do check bodies. But there's only so much you can do when you have 200 cars in the pits and you got 3 hours to check them. But it is the team. Go ahead, Adam.
That's a perfectly fair answer. And you know what? I say, no, if that's when it comes to your attention, and that's what struck me as curious in the situation, because teams are always pointing at other teams. It just seemed weird that Tech would look at that. But as you say, if it's pointed out, then so be it. I enjoyed Mike Mahaney's video. I thought his explanation was obviously unrehearsed, which to me makes it that much more sincere.
Yeah, and was Mike disappointed? Absolutely. It bummed me out. It ruined my night, actually, in a way. I enjoyed Max winning and everything. Everyone thinks, you want to DQ people. Mike Mahaney is a future star, and Mike Mahaney is very credible, and quite frankly, just a damn nice guy. I've drank a lot of beer with Mike Mahaney. He ran with ESS. But also rules are rules. And, it is the race team's obligation to present a car that is legal. And it is our obligation to tech the best we can. And if something gets alerted to us, we do have to react. Now, we don't have 10 full-time employees in tech and dirt car like NASCAR that can have a strenuous 5-hour pre-tech like they do. We have tech. We have a lot of pre-tech, which quite frankly, a lot of series don't do. We did pre-tech each night and put a sticker on there on each car. But again, it was more for safety than anything else, because with us, safety is the most important. We regulate these safety procedures, and we want to make sure that these guys have their full containment seats, their fire bottles, seat belts within 2 years. It's up to them to make sure their bodies are legal, to make sure their carburetors are legal, make sure their cubic inches are legal. And in this situation, it was a bump stop. Do I think Mike Mahaney's purposely cheating? No. God, no. Mike Mahaney, he doesn't need to. He says this doesn't help me. I get that. But it's still a part that was illegal, and we had to do what we had to do at that situation and at that time.
Yeah, I don't disagree, Dean. From the management side, in the series and the tracks that I've been involved with, I'm with you. Your tech inspector starts probably earliest than anybody does, other than maybe the management guys signing them in. They're working the entire night. So for the fans or people who just think, tech begins or should only begin at the end of the feature, that's a wrong impression of what the job entails. These guys are on the go all night long. I agree with your assessment. You want to catch any time. Shitty deal for Mike, of course it is. He was running great, did the 3/4 inch or whatever it was out, hurt him or help him. Probably not, as he showed, he ran good in the end. But I'm with you, Dean. You want to get them out and you want to give him a chance to fix it, because it'd be shit if he ran and won and then you're throwing him out for 3/4 of an inch after he won the 10 grand, and took all the glory. And that also ruins your show too. The fans go away seeing not the guy win who they think won. So, I'm with you there, Dean. We may take a minute or two of Mike's video after we let you go, Dean. I'm sure you've seen it already. We'll just get Mike's perspective here after we drop you, but not because we're worried about it, unless you want to hang around. But I know you've already been through it. Let's anything you want to mention about Empire Super Sprints for the people who know you from that world, and maybe hoping you're going to throw a tidbit their way or any information you got about the Empire Super Sprints. And then finally, maybe just some quick discussion about the modifieds at Merrittville and what they can do. I think the concern there is you've got the Wagner motor, you've got the spec motor. How do you get some of the other guys back in the game? How do you save some cost here in Canada? Because our racers are obviously at quite a different market than the U.S. racers, because we're at a 30 to 40% deficit on the dollar, depending on where you're buying your parts and that. So from the upper side, from the HQ side, what first off, maybe address the Merrittville modified situation. I just say Merrittville because it's the only one that really runs around, and that's where the topic's been hot this week, with a lot of their guys chiming in from everything from tires to fuel to new engine combinations. What's your thoughts on up here?
Well, the Merrittville situation is interesting because the 358s have actually been flourishing everywhere, especially here in the States. But yes, we don't have to deal with the money situation. But up in Quebec, you take a look and, the numbers are rising up there. But it seems like the two tracks have been, Brockville and Merrittville. Brockville's, I think I've seen a little resurgence there. I got to take a look and see why. I know it's more expensive to run, but is it the economy of the area? I got to look at that. Is it just getting toward a situation where the 358s are becoming too expensive for that area, which is a unique situation because the cost of the 358s has actually gone down. I'm just going to use U.S. dollars. The 358 motor was $32,000, and now with the W16 coming out and being started out at 10 and 11,000, now 13. Now you're seeing these eco mods and that Kevlar does, and seeing the price of the spec 358s go down. Where now here in the States, you can have a competitive motor for $22,000, which is $8,000 less than the $30,000. That's a big percentage. But is it up there? With the difference in the dollars, maybe it's not that much of an effect. I don't know. I have to look at that because the 358 numbers are actually the numbers that have increased the most overall dirt car in the last 2-3 years since I've been aboard. But I got to take a look and see what it is. Although Don was, last year he was up in numbers. We can't really count this year because it's so tough to see where everything was going to go. But he did go up in numbers last year, where he was, at times he was low teens to mid-teens, and he was mid-teens to high teens. But I know the fuel's a little bit more expensive in Canada and everything, but it's got to be something I got to take a look at, because you want sportsman guys to move up, and they're doing it down here. I'm looking at probably 5 to 6 to 7 of the top sportsman guys here in Central New York having 358s. We're looking at mid-30s for 358s at Fulton next year. I think Utica Rome's going to be mid to high 20s. Thunder Mountain became 358s, and they're actually running against Fulton 60 miles down the road. I think they're going to be in high teens. So there's 358s where there's actually tracks thinking of running 358 shows. But I got to take a look, and I really haven't been on the message boards like you've been mentioning, Clinton. I got to follow up on that, and because I was just too busy last week. But I'm definitely going to take a look. And then I'm always in conversation with Erica and talking to Don, and we got to see maybe if there's something we can do for the area to see if we can get the counts. I think if we can get low 20s at Merrittville Weekly, I think that's a good thing to do, and I think that shows the health of the class if we can get there.
For sure. We'll bring you into that group, and I'm sure the guys would like to have your input. Finally, before we let you go, because we still got a bunch of topics to get through, we appreciate our time, Dean. It's been an awesome discussion. ESS, quick State of the Union or thoughts on what's happening there, and what you want to tell your ESS guys with your hat on as you get back into Dino mode.
Yeah, change the hats. Well, ESS, we actually only had one show this year, and that was at Can-Am. And it was during the time where a federal judge had an injunction and kind of a loophole with religious groups about allowing gatherings larger than 50 people or whatever we had in New York State at the time. So a couple of tracks rolled with that. And Can-Am was one of them there on July 1st, and they had fans, so Tyler Bartlett had us as a part of the deal, which we were already on the schedule. We'll be business as usual. Lucas Oil is going to be back next year to sponsor the tour. We're carrying over all the memberships, so everyone that got a membership this year will not have to pay for a membership next year. And I already told the tracks that every show that they had, we're reserving their date for next year unless you tell us different. So we'll be good. ESS will be back on the road next year, hopefully in good numbers, and hopefully fans will be allowed and at the racetracks, at least in a percentage where they can afford to have us. Because it was a tough year. ESS, the purse is an extra purse on top of their weekly purses, and we understood that. We know it was going to be a tough deal to run. It was an impossibility to run ESS without fans on top of the regular show, so we knew that. And you can't blame the tracks at all. And but we'll be good. We're actually a not-for-profit entity in New York State, anyways. We're registered as not-for-profit, so when it comes to December 31st, we have to drain the account down anyways. So we just don't have an account to drain this year. That's all.
Awesome, Dean. Thanks for your time and your input. We really appreciate you hanging out with us. And have a good week off. I'm sure you're going to need it.
Well, it's not going to be really a week off, but I did take yesterday off. But guys, it's always a pleasure to come on, and I wish you well. Be good.
Thanks, Dean. Talk to you soon. Adam, always good to talk to Dean Reynolds. We got to switch gears. We got a lot to get through here, but we certainly didn't want to cut Dean off. Let's talk about CSRS, Adam. Canadian Sim Racing Series is back. First race kicks off immediately following this broadcast at 9 p.m. You've had practices at Las Vegas. Thoughts on what's going to happen here tonight at 9 p.m. as we jump into our first Blacktop Series of the 2020 fall season?
Yeah, we decided the schedule hadn't been set. We knew we wanted to race Tuesday nights, but we decided to run Las Vegas again for opening night because the practice race went so well. The only yellow that came out last week was the stage break midway through the race. So really good racing. I think the numbers are going to increase quite a bit. I think we should be somewhere in the 20s for tonight's race, but I would imagine as the season goes on, we're going to be up around 40 cars every week. The Evans brothers are doing the stream. They do a fantastic job, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I got to tell our regular viewers, if you've not watched iRacing or watched any of the broadcasts, give it a shot. I mean, I find myself watching some of the G-Force Racing League stuff that I don't even know any of the competitors, but it's entertaining. It's every bit as exciting as real racing if you can get past the video game aspect of it. But I love it, Adam. I love it. It's real characters doing real racing, and it's real emotion. And, these guys do a real broadcast putting it out there. So check it out.
And it's real hard.
It is.
It's
definitely difficult.
Very challenging. That's what makes it so similar to the real thing. So stay tuned, GeForceTV.net, immediately following this show at 9 o'clock. That's when qualifying will go out, and then 80 laps at Las Vegas is the distance tonight.
So we talked a bit about, we're just going to jump around all over the place here with what's left. Let's talk about our Port Royal coming up. We just finished up with Dean. The Short Track Super Series kicks off this weekend at Port Royal. That's going to be a big race, $53,000 to win. They've gotten back to a state where they don't really seem to worry about too much about this virus. If you watched any of the racing going on in Pennsylvania the past few weeks, they just don't give a damn. It's racing back as business as usual, and makes you feel like, if you're from around here, that you're watching something from a couple years ago. Just packed pits, packed grandstands. Make sure you check that out. You're going to see some amazing racing. A lot of the same drivers you saw here. We tried to get Brett on the show tonight. He was just too tied up in prep, and our schedules didn't align to get him on the program tonight. So we want to wish Brett Dale all the best as he takes a lot of the modified guys and heads off to Port Royal. They've just had a lot of work done to Port Royal this year. It's going to be great to see. Interesting story. Go ahead.
We should promote the stream, Clinton, because we know most people in our area can't go to Port Royal. DTD TV, tune in. It will be pay-per-view, but I think it's going to be an awesome show. I mean, I plan on purchasing the stream. If they make me, I'll take a freebie if they want, because we have also put in our time. But no, I think people need to be watching this event this weekend. It should be a great show.
Certainly going to be majorly viewed. I'm sure that I'll be catching over at T-Max Bar and Grill this weekend, no doubt about that. As there are a lot of big Stuart Friesen fans over there. Stuart is chosen to go to Port Royal, despite the NASCAR making the schedule change. He said, "No, I'm committed to my buddy Brett in this series," and he's on tap to be the champion, I believe, again. So he is going to go to Port Royal and put Timothy Peters in his truck this weekend. That's a fairly big story too, Adam.
It is, and you kind of jumped on me last week because I talked about the money he can make at Port Royal, and you mentioned I don't know how Stuart Friesen gets paid, and you are correct. I don't know how Stuart Friesen gets paid, but I also don't know what NASCAR Truck Series race pays $53,000 to win.
Yeah, I'm not sure on that. I was being a bit of an ass, just jumping down your throat because you would have done it to me if you were in the mood that I was in
Yeah,
last week. So I did it. But
exactly. No, it was all good, and I was irritated because you were right. It doesn't happen very often that you're right, but I didn't know how Stewart gets paid for his truck racing and how Stewart gets paid for his modified racing. My point in the argument was the winner's purse for each race. Again, not knowing how it gets broken down between team owner, driver, etc. I would imagine uh, Port Royal at $53,000 pays better than the trucks at Kansas, but I would like to find that out and be sure.
well, we're gonna have to do some math and get back to you on Tuesday and see how Stewart's pocketbook worked out. We're gonna try and get Stewart on the program possibly next week to see how that works out for him, and we should be able to swing that in the next couple of weeks. A couple of bit of housekeeping things. The Glen Stars Racing Christmas auction is coming up. We're still looking for donations out there. So if you have any wrecked race car parts, a team hoodie, a baseball cap, any type of souvenir you want to get, even wrecked, like I said, used tires, wrecked race car parts, you autograph it. We put it online. All you got to do is send us a picture of what you've got. Contact myself. I'll put you in touch with Kevin Miller. And it raises a lot of money for underprivileged kids each year. This is about the fourth or fifth year they've done it. And it raises a lot of great Christmas gifts for kids who need it. So if you can get out there, and once we figure out all the items that Kevin's accumulated, then we'll let you know where you can start the bids online on Facebook to make that happen. So reach out to me through Facebook and we can make that happen. Adam, let's talk about Caden Lapswich. He had a big weekend at a major race on the blacktop down in the States this week. The Winchester 400 was this weekend. And, what would you like to say about that? Pretty good deal for Caden to jump the pole in a major prestigious late model race like that.
At a badass racetrack. I mean, that's not like putting a car on the pole at Daytona where you put your foot to the floor and just ride around the racetrack. Winchester Speedway. Look at that still picture, Clinton. Even that still picture makes me think, holy shit, that place is not for the faint of heart. And from what I gather, part of the problem in the race, there was, as you can see in the background, the leaves are changing color. They're coming off the trees. You got some leaves stuck to the grill of the car, caused some overheating, which pushed him back through the field a little bit, but still a solid top 10 finish for Caden Lapsevich at Winchester. That's one of the biggest super late model races of the year.
The track surface looks like a cheese grater to me. Like I get the impression that it just eats tires like an animal. Like it just looks
It looks
mean.
like it
But
would.
good deal for Caden. If I understand correctly, he went to UNOH down there. Got in the motorsports program. Started working for Rowdy Bush and is doing quite well for himself racing down there now in the U.S. So congrats to Caden and the Lapswich family on a solid run at the Winchester 400. Certainly not the finish he would have liked to have had, but they definitely knew the 16 was there. Okay, so we got a couple other topics to get through. Our Burger Barn Video of the Week is a new feature we're starting on the show, Adam. We should probably have Todd Lewis on next week to talk about it. Help set up the Avion Motorsports situation with Todd and what you expect to see from there and what the fans can expect.
Well, Area 27 out in British Columbia, Jacques Villeneuve was involved in the design of that racetrack. Trevor Siebert was involved in the design and the building of the racetrack, and they've created a racing series out there. It's a new concept what they're doing out there, and I say that because there's no big grandstands to the place. It's built to be an arrive and drive kind of a place that's more for the racers than it is for spectators. but they're promoting this series, and this series is going all over the place, and they've brought in Todd Lewis to help them, which I think is a great choice. Todd knows his stuff. He's a great voice, and now they've put together some I don't want to say promotional videos because it does promote what they're doing, but it's pretty exciting stuff.
Spencer, roll it. This will be our Burger Barn video of the week. It's our newest feature here.
"2020 was quite a year for Avion Motorsports RS1 series. It was a challenging year for everybody, but in spite of that, we completed our race schedule at Area 27 and Penticton Speedway. We hosted new events and welcomed new drivers to the series. The season was a huge success."
Hi, I'm Al Liebert, General Manager of Avion Motorsports RS1 Series. It's unlike any other series in North America, and I'm here to tell you all about it over the off-season.
My team works harder than anybody in the business to build fast race cars and to keep them running at peak performance. During the summer race season, we're based out of Okanagan in British Columbia. Now that the race season has come to an end, we shift our operations to the Ottawa Valley shop, where we're going to build more handcrafted RS1 race cars.
2020 has been really successful for Avion Motorsports and RS1 program. We got some really cool stuff coming for 2021, but we have a busy off season. But before we get to that, I gotta drive across country for 4,000 kilometers, so I better get going. Off-season, we'll be doing a series of short videos showing you every step it takes to build an RS1 car from the ground up, and all the amazing people that are part of the Avion Motorsports team who make the RS1 series happen.
Cool to have them with us. Going to be a good addition, and I think bringing some great fans to the channel. So we're appreciated to have them with us, and some great stuff going on out there, and I'm sure we're going to see more of it.
Yeah, they're doing things right. They're making a big deal of it, as they should. So it's going to be exciting to see how it develops, and good to see Al Liebert having a big part in this. He's put in his time. He's worked hard in this business.
Watch for those programs to come out, and we'll keep you abreast of when they're going to be coming out on the channel. Rules discussions on Facebook. There's been a pretty big rules discussion going on about Superstock rules here in Ontario. A lot of the Superstock drivers chiming in, Adam, as we know, and we got to witness firsthand on G-Force this summer with the McCall Racing Enterprises Superstock series that the APC folks put together as a companion race series to their events that we are a part of this season. There are a lot of Superstocks out there, and if they can bridge the gap at all these tracks, it's a division that we could get back to being on top. And, when you look at, when we did the Flamborough race a couple weeks back, you were mentioning, at times it was down to 7-8 cars, and to see a full field there was great. So what's it going to take to get the Superstocks back on track with a solid program?
It's a great question, Clint. It requires the right people doing the right jobs. There is nothing that says that the tracks need to work together. Nothing. There's no rule book. There is no guidebook that says your life is going to be more pleasant if you work with the other speedways in the province. But the fact of the matter is, I think you will be better off if you work with other tracks. And we have seen that on the dirt side where it has helped certain racetracks. Having uniform rules has been a big help. There's always a reason why the rules are not uniform. It doesn't happen by accident. So that's what you have to look at. And some of the promoters that have rules that are unique to their facility will have to decide what's more important.
I think bridging the gap it's major. It's a huge thing for the sport. And let's just look at some of the positives. Not that we have to beat a dead horse, but on the dirt side, okay, so we started the Ontario Dirt Competition Committee 8-9 years ago. There was no way of thinking we could ever bring all these tracks together in both the mini stock and the thunder stock street stock class because they all had different rules. And we were able to bring all those gaps together over a course of a few years of grandfathering in what everybody had, figuring out what we had to clarify from there. And now we've got a rule book that is 3 years of let's say planning, where we're saying for the next 3 years we're sticking to this rule book, and that helps a lot of people build on that. Now what that does for us is, in a year, especially this year, it was really brought to light how much it helped in that, for example, in the COVID season where, let's say, Merrittville was the only track having a race for 3 or 4 weeks around it, you had guys like Steve Shaw come down. You had guys like, Justin Ramsey make the tour down, and everybody could take part in that. And what that means is the tracks now have a bigger pot to draw from as far as cars that can help them make their finances work. And there's so many benefits to that. So that's the other thing that I see of it, is it's only going to be positive. Now, to bring them all together, there's so many different little issues that everybody feels they have to be addressed with, and that's the hard part. Who can take the leadership of the series and really make it go? Now, that's where the fight comes in, and there's lots of people vying for control, whether it be through chirping on Facebook or talking to the promoters' ears and getting the attention of the tech directors and trying to guide the rules where they think they need to go. And I think the hard part is finding people who really have the division at the division's best interest at heart as a whole is tough to find, because if you just listen to the teams, they're always pulling for what advantage they have or what part they use or whatever they think is cost effective. The way we've done it on the dirt with the competition committee, we've got 5 tracks per se on the Thunderstocks on dirt. Each track has 3 representatives. They've got the champion, the promoter, and the tech director, and that changes the champion each year or the tech director, but that gives 15 people the guidance to mold the division. And I think that's where they need something like that to make it work.
And not everything translates directly from the dirt to the asphalt, but the principle does. The principle of it definitely does.
Yeah.
And time will tell. It's worth it. It's worth the effort.
We saw the car counts are out there. There are a lot of these that want to race. Let's face it, pavement racing does need a mid-level class, something above bone stock, mini stock, and something that's not a pro late that fits in the middle. And I think, there's a lot of potential to get that figured out. We'll follow that story and see how it goes. But there's quite a discussion going on Facebook, as we talked about with the modified situation as well. We've got a couple of topics left to go. Boyer into the booth. This week, Clinton Boyer announced that he's going to hang it up and go back to the booth. Does that open the 14 for Larson? As it's a story we've been beating with like a dead horse for a month now. Does that finally open up the 14 for Kyle Larson?
It makes a lot of sense, in my mind anyhow. And I was so hoping Clint Boyer was going to win in Charlotte. Oh, man, I was pulling for him. But it's not easy to drive a car with no power steering.
Yeah, and somebody wrote on there, look at that picture. If that doesn't show you that race car drivers are athletes, no power steering, trying to, he had to win the race to get a shot to move on in the playoffs, knowing it's his finals. That's a guy who went through a marathon right there. And, if you don't think drivers are athletes, that's good proof of it right there.
One of my least favorite discussions in motorsports.
Oh, really? Why?
I don't care. I don't care if people consider race car drivers athletes. Who cares? They're winners. The good ones are winners. Jimmy Spencer wasn't an athlete, but he could beat the hell out of a race car.
Maybe that's a discussion for next week where we could go head to head.
And I think we could spend a long time on it, but I've always wondered why people are so... Race car driver's not a quarter of the athlete as the guys changing their tires.
You want to talk about that? You're not far off there. I'm actually adding our drivers' athletes to next week's rundown so we don't forget. It'll be number one topic. We'll kick off the show and fans can let us know what they think, whether we're crazy or not.
More importantly, I want to ask a different question. Why does it matter?
It doesn't. It's just a topic of discussion.
I think that's what...
I think it's probably because racing goes under the sports page or, that type of thing. So people say it's not a sport, and that's where the argument kind of stems from. There's a couple good arguments on why it could be considered that. Weber Valley Speedway, the final topic we've got. I started seeing screenshots of this situation. Have you seen any of this, Adam?
I have.
I don't know why it says that on our screen right now, Spencer, but
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, Weber Valley Speedway, I didn't know what to make of it. The first post, I thought, man, it's this terrible grammar, but it's obviously a joke. If you guys haven't seen it, or you know what's going on there, or maybe if it's not a joke and it's real, you just got to read it. I don't even think I could read it phonetically because the grammar is so bad. All you idiots bitch and moaning about rocks in the track flying up, hitting people in the crowd need to shut up. Nobody's forcing you to attend. Rocks give our track character, and they are so small. Once it hits you, it wouldn't do permanent damage. So if you're just going to sit and whine about it, better if you didn't come anyway, snowflakes. And then shows a picture of a track that's all rocks. And I was like, what is going on? But then it just got crazier and crazier. So if you haven't checked it out, they're saying they've caught somebody doing math by the tech barn, and they're looking for whoever it is, and it just goes on and on. This one got me, and this was probably the first one I saw. Due to an incident, the 007 of Ron Weaver Sr. was disqualified at the conclusion of a racing event last night. It was found that Mr. Weaver, the former promoter of the Speedway, had a receiver radio to transmit to the field on channel 454, which is the receiver one way that Doug Leonard and everybody talks to the drivers on. He chose to use that radio to call out yellow, yellow multiple times during the stalker feature, causing chaos to the drivers and numerous rear ends and wrecks so he could try to win. His suspension is one race and a fine of $50 for this infraction. I thought it was great. It's just someone's having fun with it, maybe taking a little bit too far. And this one too. Anybody with foreign sounding last name automatically has to start last in heat race this week, no matter what time they show up. We has a lot of drifters coming from out of suspicious last names and don't want them wrecking our regular racers. This don't apply to Gage Martinez, hence he has raced us all year and gets a DACA pass. But you just got to read the grammar.
Have you seen Gage Martinez?
Yes, it's just great. If you need some laughter, go through it and check it out. Here's their list of infractions from the week. It's just a good laugh for you. So go check it out. That's our gift to you this week. WAEABER, Weber Valley Speedway. Check it out on Facebook. It's good for a laugh. If you're easily offended, maybe you don't want to go there. But I'm sure if you're hanging with us for an hour every Tuesday, you can handle Weber Valley Speedway's Facebook page, right? So,
yep, I think so.
Well, we get ready to go into our first Canadian Sim Racing Series pavement blacktop event of the year from Las Vegas. Adam, qualifying starts in about 5 seconds. So thanks, Spencer, for everything you do. If you're on the channel, click back on, and you're going to get a notification right now. So just in order for us not to marry them one into the other, we're clipping this one off. Go to the other one. It's live now. Thanks for being with us.